receiving system. This video has been made to give you an overview of the installation and operation of your new system. We'll cover the basics of connecting your receiver, finding the satellite and best location for the dish antenna, assembling the dish antenna and installing the mast, grounding and routing cable, connecting and aiming the dish, activating programming, wiring your system, and fundamental operations. We'll also provide a section on how to install a second dish system for EchoStar 3 and 4 satellites. That will be covered later on. By carefully following the directions provided in this video, along with the detailed instructions in your installation guide, you'll see that connecting to the dish receiving system isn't really all that difficult. Make sure that you have the necessary tools and skills to handle construction tasks, such as drilling through your walls. Plus, it helps to have some familiarity with home video and electronics. To begin, take a few minutes to compare the parts that have been included with your dish system hardware and installation kit to the lists located in the installation kit guide. Make sure that you keep the guide handy for quick reference and detailed instructions. Remember, it pays off to read each step first. This will make sure you avoid injury to yourself and damage to your home and equipment. Pay attention to items with these warnings and attention symbols. Consult local building and electrical codes and safety procedures. And take care to avoid overhead power lines, lights, and power circuits. There are 2 points especially important to understand before you begin. First, the installation is permanent, so you must be sure of your dish antenna and receiver locations before you begin. And second, it will be critical to mount the mast of the dish antenna rock solid and perfectly vertical. So, now you think you've got everything together and you're ready to begin? You'll still need to find information to aim your dish antenna at the satellite, so you must first temporarily connect the receiver to your TV. Permanent hookup will be covered later. A short piece of RG59 coaxial cable should be included for your connection from TV set out on the receiver to RF or antenna in on your TV. Set the channel 3/4 TV output switch to the channel not used by a broadcast station in your area. Some receiver models don't have a channel 3/4 TV output switch on the back panel. For these receivers, the default TV output is channel 3. Use channel 3 to start your installation process, and refer to the user and installation guide that came with your receiver to change the TV output channel after you've completed the installation. If your receiver and remote control are UHF, you'll need to attach the short UHF antenna to the receiver. This feature allows you to control the receiver from any room in your house at a maximum of 150 feet from the receiver. Turn on the TV to the channel you've selected and turn on the receiver. Make sure the remote control is in the satellite mode. New receiver installations will automatically power up in the point dish and signal strength screen. Now, using the number keypad, enter your zip code. The receiver will give you the azimuth or east-west direction and the elevation or up-down direction at which you'll find the satellite from your location. This is all based on the simple information obtained just from your zip code. The first 2 dish network satellites are in an orbit 22,300 miles above the Earth, located directly over the equator at 119 degrees west and due south of Reno, Nevada. As the Earth rotates, the satellite orbits at a speed that keeps it in a fixed position in relation to the Earth's surface, so it appears stationary in the sky. That means that no matter where you are in the continental U.S., the satellite will be found in the southern sky. Finding the exact location of the satellite for your area is defined by the azimuth and elevation numbers given to you when you enter your zip code via your remote. If you've entered your zip code and get question marks, try entering the zip code of a major city near you. It's a precise east to west position, or azimuth, and up-down position, or elevation, depending on your specific location. For example, if you're east of Reno, the satellite is to the southwest. If you're west of Reno, then it is to the southeast. If you're in the northern part of the country, the satellite will be in the lower part of the sky. which also means that if you live in the southern part of the U.S., it will be higher. To find the azimuth or east-west direction, hold the compass that has been included in your installation kit level. The needle will point north. Turn the compass so that the N lines up with the needle. Due south is 180 degrees, east is 90 degrees, west is 270 degrees. You may want to place a stick pointing in the correct direction. To find the satellite's elevation, identify the straight out level as 0 degrees and straight up vertical is 90 degrees. For our example, 42 degrees is about halfway up. If your elevation is correct, you will easily find the satellite. Now you're almost ready to start setting up the antenna. First, you need to find a sturdy location that gives an unobstructed line of sight to the satellite. Keep in mind that foliage, trees, overhangs, and other buildings will obstruct the signal. During fall and winter months, it may look like you have a clear signal path, but spring and summer growth will cause obstruction. You should also try to find a place with reasonable access so that you can reach it in case the signal is interrupted by snow, so that it can easily be swept off. And since you only know in general where the satellite is, you'll want a spot that allows room to refine your aim both east-west and up-down. You can mount the dish antenna to any firm, solid surface, such as the side of your house, your roof or chimney. With wood siding, you should mount it in a stud. You can also install it on a pole. Avoid putting it where it can be bumped or blocked. Don't mount it to mortar between bricks or cinder blocks. Don't mount it to stucco, imitation masonry, or particle board unless it can be anchored to a stud. Never mount it to vinyl or aluminum siding, even if a stud is underneath, because it may deform or break the siding. And don't mount it directly, above or downwind of a chimney, furnace vent, or near power lines. The dish antenna should be mounted as close to the receiver as possible. They should be no more than 100 feet apart. The coax cable provided with the installation kit will let you run 75 feet between the dish antenna and the grounding block or switch, and another 25 feet from that point to the receiver inside the house. If you must cut your cable to a custom length for your installation, be sure to use the proper tools for putting connectors on the cable. Weatherproof RG6 connectors should be used. Also, use only an RG6 cable, cutter, stripper, and hex crimping tool to ensure a problem-free connection. Follow all directions that come with the tools and materials. If the connectors are not properly attached to the cables, you may encounter problems with maintaining adequate signal strength and weather-related signal deterioration. Be aware that the limited warranty does not cover faulty connectors. Be sure to plan your cable run as to where it will enter the house and where the grounding block and the receiver will be. It will also help simplify the installation if the receiver is near an outside wall and within 25 feet of a phone jack. It's time to mount the mast. The single most important factor in mounting the foot and the mast is that it must be on an absolutely stable surface and completely vertical. To mount the foot, first mark and drill a hole for the top center bolt, making sure you go into the stud in the wall. Screw the foot into place using a lag bolt. If you're mounting the foot vertically, square it up. Using a level, take 2 different position readings to make sure the mast is perfectly vertical. If the mast is not vertical, when you go to pan the dish antenna east and west, its elevation will change and you won't be able to find the satellite. When the foot is square and the mast vertical, mark the other mounting holes, remove the foot, and drill the remaining holes. Remount the foot to the location on your house and tighten it down. For mounting to other surfaces, the basic approach remains the same. However, each surface requires special considerations and hardware. Please refer to your installation guide. While you're safely on the ground, assemble the satellite dish, the mounting bracket, and LNBF support arm. If you need information on this procedure, refer to your installation guide. Set the elevation according to the scale on the dish support arm by tilting the dish antenna. The mark should align with the elevation you found when entering your zip code in the point dish screen. Now you're ready to thread the cable through the dish support arm and put it on the mast. First, thread the coax cable through the mast following the diagram in the installation guide. Thread the cable through the support arm following the same diagram. Make sure that you don't kink it or pinch it. You should end up with about 2 inches of cable at the end of the arm. When the cable is threaded and the arm is on the mast, loosely secure it with the mast clamp bolts. Next, attach the LNBF to the coax cable with the F connector. If you have a dual output LNBF to support 2 receivers, you will have to thread 2 separate coax cables through the mast and 1 support arm and attach one to each LNBF connector. This is the only way to feed 2 receivers. You cannot use a splitter to send a signal LNBF output to 2 receivers. Slide the LNBF base into the open end of the arm, adjusting the cable, and secure it with a supplied screw. Point the dish antenna as closely as you can toward the satellite azimuth and elevation you've estimated and loosely tighten all the bolts. Note that the LNBF and support arm won't line up with the satellite. The coax cable leading from the dish antenna into your home must be grounded to protect you and the system. Please consult the National Electrical Code, usually located in your local library, and local electrical codes for proper grounding procedures. Some materials you will need are not included in your installation kit. Use the existing grounding system already established in your home. Mount your grounding block near where the cable will enter the house. If you are using a dual LNBF, you will need a dual grounding block for 2 coax cables. If the 2 cables enter the house at different places, you'll need 2 complete grounding setups. Attach a single length of number 10 gauge copper or number 8 gauge solid aluminum ground wire, long enough to run from the grounding block to the ground system. Run the coax cable from the LNBF to the ground block, forming a drip loop. This will allow moisture to drip from the cable before it runs into the grounding block or building. Next, drill a 1/2-inch hole through the outer wall of your house to pass the cable through to inside of the building, near to where the receiver will be. Take care not to drill near pipes or wires. If the receiver is not going to be near an outside wall, you'll need to run cable into an attic, basement, or crawl space. Thread the 25-foot section of coax through the wall and hook the exterior end to the unused side of the ground block. Be sure to seal the hole with silicone. Now you're ready to connect and aim. On the back of your receiver, you'll see a connection labeled Satellite In, where you can now hook the coax that is coming from your wall. Your system should already be on the point dish screen, with the signal strength bar at the bottom of the screen telling you when you've aimed the dish antenna at the satellite for the strongest signal. If possible, have the TV and receiver within view of the dish. Otherwise, use an assistant, or turn the TV volume up. As signal strength increases, the audio tone will change in pitch. The signal strength bar will begin showing red and will say that it is unlocked. You will need to fine-tune the antenna position to lock into the strongest signal possible. First, if you set the elevation correctly when assembling the support arm and dish, and your mast is absolutely vertical, then you need to move the dish antenna east and west to find the satellite. Move the dish slowly, just a few degrees at a time, first in one direction and then the other. If you aim at any satellite other than the dish network, the signal strength bar may move, but it will remain red. You'll know you've connected with the dish satellite signal when the bar turns green and the word locked appears. Tweak the position of the antenna until you get the strongest signal possible. Increasing the signal strength will not result in a better picture, but will help you maintain the best picture during bad weather. Once you've achieved maximum signal strength, tighten the dish antenna so it cannot be moved. When leaving the point dish and signal strength screen, you will be prompted to verify. The dish is pointed and locked into position. Select Yes, and important information will be downloaded into your receiver. So, now you've got it all connected. You've got the signal strength and everything's in place. Now you need to get the programming turned on. It's as easy as 1-800-333-DISH. A customer service representative will ask you for your receiver number and smart card number, which you can find by going through the menus to System Info. Take your choice of several channel packages at various price levels. You can also order accessories and other services, such as our printed program guide. The RF connection you made between the receiver and your TV is the simplest way to watch the Dish Network with good quality picture and mono sound. If you connect a cable TV box or broadcast TV antenna to the receiver, you must use the RF or VHF connections for the cable or local broadcast television signal input and output. This is true even if you use the RCA or S-video connections from the receiver to gain quality in picture and sound. And we of course recommend you wire your system for the highest quality in audio and video. To do this, review the outputs and inputs on all components and choose the appropriate wiring setup from your installation guide. Do you remember our previous reference to placing your receiver within 25 feet of a phone jack? The phone line you'll need is to connect to the back of your receiver to use pay-per-view. The Dish Network system is menu-driven to make it easy for you. The program guide gives you a complete listing of every show on every channel, including channels you haven't subscribed to, which will be highlighted in red. Up and down arrows move you through the channels, while left and right arrows move you through time periods. You can pick your program by highlighting and pushing Select on the remote. Once you've chosen the show, the program banner at the top of the screen gives you the channel, title, and time. Push Info and you can find out details on the program. You can also select shows and change channels by punching in channel numbers or by using the up-down keys on the remote or front panel of the receiver. Push Browse on the remote. Use your up-down arrows and you'll be able to get program details on programs at the bottom of your screen without interrupting the program that's on. You can then go to one of these shows by hitting Select when the Browse banner is visible. From the main menu, you can also check out the program guide according to theme, or you can set up favorite lists for every member of your family. Keep in mind, however, that not all features, such as themes and favorites, are available on all receiver models. You also have access to parental locks, so that you can block programming by rating codes or specific channels, depending on your receiver model. You can also lock out the operation of the entire front panel of the receiver, as well as set and change passwords that will let you bypass the locks. To make locks functional, you must lock the system first. You are now successfully installed and ready to begin your television viewing with the best entertainment that the Dish Network has to offer. You now know the basics of connecting the receiver, finding the satellite, assembling and installing the antenna, grounding and routing the cable, connecting and aiming the dish, activating your programming, and basic operations. Think you're a pro now? Well, if you're installing for a second dish, keep the tape rolling. You'll see that the basics are the same, but there are a few changes. And we want to make sure that you know how to properly install in order to receive more great programs from our other dish satellites.
Now that you've got the first dish in place to receive programming from the satellites at the 119° west position, it's time to start planning for your second installation. The Dish Network also has 2 more satellites that will be orbiting at the 61.5° west and the 148° west orbital slots. To receive programming from one or both of these 2 satellites, you must install a second satellite antenna. This portion of the video was made to help you install an additional dish. To begin, we offer several versions of a multi-dish kit that has been customized to your individual Dish Network system. During the installation, you should refer to the section for your kit in the multi-dish installation guide to ensure a proper setup. You'll notice there are differences in the multi-dish switches required for your installation. The model SW21 is for single LNBFs and 1 receiver in the home. The model SW42 is intended for dual LNBF installations, meaning there are 2 receivers for separate televisions. The model SW64 requires an AC/DC transformer and power inserter and is meant for the installation of up to 3 satellite dishes with dual LNBF and the ability to support up to 4 receivers. The model SWAJ is built for any of the receivers that have a back panel accessory jack, excluding the Model 2000. It is also only for single LNBF installations. New software will be required to aim multiple satellite dishes at the appropriate satellites for the strongest possible signals. This software will be downloaded to all dish receivers in the field via the satellite signal during the first dish installation. To verify you have the new software, open the point dish and signal strength screen by navigating through the on-screen menus. If there are selections for multiple satellites on the left side of the menu, you have the right software. If not, simply power off the receiver with the remote or front panel power button to receive an upgrade. After a few minutes, the receiver's power light should turn on, then turn back off. This indicates the software upgrade has occurred. After the power light turns off, go back to the point dish and signal strength menu and look for the multiple satellite selections. Now you're ready to go. Most of what you'll see here will be general information on the installations with specific references to the model switches. We'll walk you through the steps to get your second dish connected to your existing receiver. Determine the general location of the desired satellite, grounding and routing the cable to the multi-dish switch, and connecting and aiming the second dish. If you aren't comfortable installing this yourself, you can get information on an authorized installer in your area by calling 1-800-799-7175. First, unpack the multi-dish switch kit and make sure all parts for your particular kit are included. Repeat the steps you followed in locating the satellites at the 119-degree position using your zip code to determine the azimuth and elevation. You must highlight the satellite field for the location of the satellite you will be looking for. Use the up and down arrows to highlight the 61.5 west or 148 west option when available. Enter your zip code and you should be able to determine the general area of where the satellites can be found. Make sure you make a note in your manual so that you can reference it later. Check for your best line of sight to the desired satellite to make sure that it's free of obstructions. Keep in mind the possible need to clean snow from the dish when choosing a mounting location. Follow the steps mentioned in the first section of the video and in your multi-dish installation guide on mounting and aligning the satellite dish. Remember, the foot and mast assembly must be mounted on a solid surface or a mounting pole in the ground. Remember that the mast must be perfectly vertical to ensure easy alignment of the dish later. Make sure that you can route the cables from the mounting location into the building. Once you've got it mounted, it's time to take the next step and aim the dish. First, temporarily connect the cable from the second dish to the cable already attached to your receiver. This can be accomplished using an existing ground block or the female-to-female splice included in your multi-dish kit. This gives you a direct connection from the second dish to the satellite receiver. If you do not have a ground block installed and there is no break in the cable between the first dish and the receiver, you may need to cut the cable to complete the installation of the second dish. First, remove the cable from the receiver satellite connection. Then, determine a location for the mounting of the multi-dish switch. It should be mounted so that you have the shortest possible path from both satellite dishes to the switch. Then cut the cable using an RG6 cable cutter. Be sure to use the proper tools for putting connectors on the cable. Weatherproof RG6 connectors should be used. Also, use only RG6 cable, cutter, stripper, and hex crimping tool to ensure a problem-free connection. Follow all directions that come with the tools and materials. If the connectors are not properly attached to the cables, you may encounter problems with maintaining adequate signal strength and weather-related signal deterioration. Be aware that the limited warranty does not cover faulty connectors. Once you have the receiver connected to the second satellite dish, Go to the Multi-Dish Install option via the on-screen menus. The receiver should display the point dish and signal strength menu. Use the arrow buttons to move the highlight to the satellite field. Use the up or down button to highlight the 61.5 West option or the 148 West option when available. If possible, watch the signal strength bar as you adjust the dish. You can also use a partner to watch the TV screen, or you can listen to the signal tones from the receiver to help you aim the dish at the correct satellite. If the signal strength bar is red and displays "not locked," you may be aiming the dish at the satellite, but without a strong enough signal for a picture. The signal tone will beep. If it is red and displays "wrong satellite found," you may be aiming the dish at a satellite different from the one you've selected on the satellite field. If it turns green and displays the word "locked," you're aiming at the correct satellite and should have a strong enough signal for a picture. The strength may vary, and it is not necessary for it to be 100%. The signal tone will be steady. It will rise in tone as the signal gets stronger and lowers as the signal strength drops. Loosen the mast clamp bolts just enough to be able to move the support bracket. Slowly move the dish from side to side until you find the strongest signal. Tighten the mast clamp bolts just enough so the dish cannot be moved from side to side. Loosen the elevation bolts and pivot bolt just enough to be able to move the support bracket. Slowly move the dish up and down until you find the strongest signal. Tighten the bolts just enough so the dish cannot be moved up and down. Make sure that the signal strength bar is green and locked. Once the maximum receive signal point has been located, tighten down all bolts to secure the dish into position. Now, in order for you to receive programming from multiple satellites, you need to install your multi-dish switch. Check to make sure that you have the right switch for your situation. With models SW21, SW42, and SW64, grounding can be accomplished using the multi-dish switch instead of a grounding block. If you already have a grounding block installed, you may replace it with the multi-dish switch. Mount the multi-dish switch onto the exterior wall of your building near the satellite dishes. Make sure the location is secure and that you bolt the multi-dish switch down tightly. If you're installing the model SWAJ, you'll see that it's designed for receivers with a back panel accessory jack and must be mounted inside the building because the switch is not weatherproof. Grounding must be accomplished using a grounding block outside the building because the SWAJ multi-dish switch does not have a grounding point. Using the shortest paths possible, route the coaxial cables from the LNBFs to the connectors on the multi-dish switch. Then route the coaxial cable from the multi-dish switch into the building to the receiver. Put drip loops in the cables. This will allow moisture to drip from the cables before it runs into the multi-dish switch or the building. Route the multi-dish switch grounding wire to a grounding electrode in accordance with your national electrical code and your local electrical codes. Then use your cable clips and attach the cables to the side of the building to help prevent damage. If your setup includes the SW64 switch, you must install the power inserter and AC/DC transformer inside the building to provide power for the switch and LNBFs. It is best to locate the power inserter and AC/DC transformer close to the satellite receiver. First, you must route an RG6 coaxial cable from the 2-power inserter connection on the multi-dish switch to the 2-switch connection on the power inserter. Route another coaxial cable from the 2-receiver connection on the power inserter to the satellite-in connection on the back of one of the receivers. Route the AC/DC transformer power cord to the power connection on the power inserter and plug in the AC/DC transformer into a wall outlet. For all multi-dish switch installations, again use the shortest routes possible to route the coaxial cables from the multi-dish switch into the building and then to the satellite receivers. You should not use more than 100 feet of cable between the dish antenna and the receiver. Remember to locate your receiver inside the building near an outside wall. Make sure there are no pipes or wires in the area of the holes. Drill a half-inch hole through the outer wall to pass the cable inside the building. If a receiver is located in an anterior room, route the cable through the outside wall and into an attic, basement, or crawl space to reach the receiver. If you still have questions on the basic installation, refer to Part 1 of this installation video and we'll take it step by step. In your multi-dish installation guide, we've included diagrams for the basic wiring that fits your model multi-dish switch and the number of receivers you will have in your home. The model SW21 is for single LNBFs and one receiver in the home. It is mounted outside and requires 2 dish connections, and a single cable must be run into the building for connection to the receiver. The model SW42 is intended for dual LNBF installations, meaning there are 2 receivers for separate televisions. It is mounted outside and requires 4 dish connections, 2 from each LNBF, and 2 cables must be run into the building for connection to each receiver. The model SW64 requires an AC/DC transformer and power inserter and is meant for the installation of up to 3 satellite dishes with dual LNBF and the ability to handle up to 4 receivers. It is mounted outside and requires up to 6 dish connections and up to 4 receiver connections. Depending on your installation, as many as 4 cables must be run into the building for connection to each receiver. The model SWAJ is built for any of the receivers that have a back panel accessory jack, excluding the Model 2000. It is also only for single LNBF installations and must be installed inside the building. It requires 2 dish connections, 1 receiver connection, and an accessory jack connection. Also, both cables from the satellite dishes must be run into the building. Once you've aimed the dishes at the appropriate satellites, you must check the switch setup. You must do this check on each of the receivers in your setup. Return to the multi-dish install option via the on-screen menus. The receiver will display the point dish and signal strength menu. Then select the check switch option. You will then receive an attention message to check the current switch installation, view the current switch setup, or cancel to return to the previous menu. Select Check, and another attention message will appear as the switch installation is verified. The receiver will display an installation summary menu. At this point, the receiver will determine what type of switch box was installed. The installed switch model field will show whatever switch model number you have installed, or it will show unknown if no switch has been installed or if there is a problem with the switch. In the dish input fields, an X indicates that there is no satellite signal on the line indicated. You might have this on your screen because you have not installed a 3rd dish or there's a problem with the switch or cable connections. The status field will also display one of the following: satellite reception verified, warning, only 1 satellite connected, or problem detected, check connection. If you receive the satellite reception verified status message, your installation is complete. If you receive the problem detected check connection status message and the switch type is unknown, first check the connection from the switch to the receiver, then retest the switch. If you receive the warning, only 1 satellite connected status message, first check the connection from both satellite dishes to the switch, then retest the switch. Remember, if the dish input fields show an X, it is an indication that there is no satellite signal on the line indicated. You might have this on your screen because you have not installed a third dish, or there's a problem with the switch or cable connections. If you need additional help in checking the switch setup, please refer to the problems and solution tables in your multi-dish installation guide. That's it. You're ready to choose even more great programming that the Dish Network has to offer. If you still have questions, please refer to your user and installation guide, installation kit guide, or multi-dish installation guide. Happy viewing!